At the start of this year, we published a consumer behavior trend review of 2020, along with some predictions and takeaways for 2021. Now, as the year comes to close, it's time to review if we got our predictions right. Let's take a look at what really happened this year.
So one of our predictions for this past year was that there'd be a lot more digital transformation in the business world. Do you think this is something that we've seen?
Yeah, I think with so many brands having prioritized D2C channels this year, this was truly necessary. Without it, it wouldn't have worked out. Obviously, with the move to digital, some of the benefits that you can see is obviously meeting customer expectations. This was one of the major focuses of this year for brands, also improving operational efficiency, especially for the D2C channels, and of course, introducing additional revenue streams. Actually, based on Statista data, average consumer spend on mobile apps grew 22% this year compared to last. So I think we can safely say that this has definitely been a trend in 2021.
Definitely. I'm quite surprised to see that there's a few businesses out there that are still relying on physical loyalty cards. So it seems that the way we're going is that those businesses that haven't gone digital are really going to fall behind.
Yeah, absolutely. The move has been so large that it's been absolutely overwhelming. And if any business that hasn't quite made the move from physical to digital, especially in loyalty, really can't compare and can't be as competitive as if you are to monetize and truly utilize all of your customer data. That is the key to driving efficient loyalty.
Yeah, and it feels like the pandemic has really sped up this transformation as well. A lot of customers, they want to do everything online. They're not so comfortable with going out and physically going to stores. So it seems like the customer expectation for this year and the years ahead are going to be purely digital.
100%.
So our next prediction for this past year has been a frictionless world. So one where customer experience is really important and it's easy as possible for the customer to join a loyalty program and to gain the rewards out of that loyalty program as well. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, 100%. We've always believed this would be the future of loyalty, but it has absolutely been a big trend in 2021. And it's been a really big topic of customer experience in general, online and for brands. Obviously, all of this is really interconnected with the points that we made beforehand. Providing a more automated, frictionless experience is essential for the digital transformation and for also delivering the experience that the customer is expecting to have. Plus, obviously, other trends are also connected. Things like the growth of social commerce, the big focus on mobile optimization, also tied in with the digital transformation, all the way to using AI to automate and predict. And with that, we've also seen the rise of headless commerce, but I don't want to preempt too much into what we'll see next year, because I think that's definitely one to watch.
So our next prediction was a trend towards value-oriented buyers. Can you talk a bit about how you think customer behavior has gone, particularly in response to the pandemic, and how their buying behaviors are?
Sure, yeah, I think this is a really interesting one. At the start of the year, we thought what we were seeing would kind of keep on for the rest of the year, the whole value conscious mind of the consumer, that it would prevail. I think what we've seen in reality was slightly different. In particular, in the second part of the year, whilst obviously some consumer groups are and always will be cost and value conscious, I think the trend changed quite drastically from from quarter to quarter as the pandemic restrictions were changing in different markets. And of course, this was supported by very aggressive marketing as brands were trying to make up for the lost revenue from last year, as well as all of the initiatives that aimed to kickstart the economy. I think consumers actually went back to being really keen on buying and old habits and going out, as well as in retail and hospitality, as well as far beyond that. And perhaps one more point to make is that one thing we couldn't have predicted was the kind of pandemic fatigue. It's been going on for so long. People are just fed up a little bit and really tired. So the cost and value conscious mind of the consumer perhaps has gone a bit quiet towards the end of the year. So really, really interesting development.
Yeah, I think another good point to make is a lot of customers previously were driven by price, but a lot more of them are now driven by their brand loyalty. So when it comes to loyalty programs, businesses need to stop thinking about value in terms of how cheap they can make their product, but how valuable they can make their rewards for their customer. And that's when you get into all the details of things like personalization and collecting the right data about your customers so you can make sure that you're providing value that's beyond just cheaper prices.
Absolutely. And now we're going back to the previous ones we've made is, you have to have that data. You need to know how to use it in order to really understand your customer and therefore then serve the right value and the right information, the right communications at all times. So yeah, you're 100% right.
So as a result of the pandemic, a lot of customers have obviously become a lot more aware of health and hygiene. So can you talk about how this might have affected consumer behaviour this past year?
Absolutely. Yeah, the pandemic has been so ever present that it might have instilled in most of us anyway, kind of a better sense of hygiene and also being very mindful about our behavior, not only as, throughout our normal lives, but also as consumers. Definitely this has contributed to the rise of e-commerce, not having to go into physical stores and touch physical products, as well as meet other people and having to use antibacterial gel all the time as well. So this has definitely affected consumer behavior in that way. When it comes to loyalty, obviously similar story, everything becoming digital as well. And one big trend that we saw last year was this purpose-driven marketing that's really worked on consumer spending because of the sense of belonging and and higher kind of emotional intelligence of people wanting to help and being very mindful of perhaps local and smaller businesses, etc. Which meant that a lot of CSR initiatives popped up and they were really working. And that's one of the things that has definitely continued to work well into this year as well. We've seen lots of really great campaigns, and we've also seen that in loyalty programs, many brands now choose to offer donations to charities as rewards. And as long as that is aligned with the brand values, I think this is a really great thing to do, but also it's something that works really well for emotional loyalty and really building that relationship between the brand and the consumer as well.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier about really knowing your customers. So if you have a audience who might be eco-conscious or health conscious, you can really play into that and make sure you're rewarding them in a way where they feel like they're contributing to something valuable.
Absolutely.
So our next prediction we've kind of already covered, and it's about online marketplaces soaring over the past year. And that's all because a lot of customers are now shopping online and e-commerce deliveries have grown significantly. So it's safe to say that that one was pretty accurate. So last year we spoke about how customer loyalty might become quite challenging in 2021. Can you talk about some of the issues that businesses might face when building loyalty with their customers?
Yeah, sure. So it's been actually really interesting. We did anticipate loyalty to be quite tough because of the rise of e-commerce and therefore, the competition becoming really high, and obviously lots of new challenges for brands, especially on the new channels. But we've seen actually a much higher interest and focus on loyalty than and retention actually than we anticipated. And I thought about this, and actually it makes a lot of sense. Yes, it couldn't have been easy. However, it makes a lot of sense to now focus on loyalty as the competition rises and all of these different challenges. Because when you think about all the rest of the trends that we've spoken about just now, data strategies becoming the focus of everything, and the rise of D2C channels and online marketplaces, and also focusing on a better customer experience and communications. All of that ties in with customer loyalty, and it just makes sense when you're already collecting all this data and trying to work really closely with your customers and trying to understand them well. Use it for retaining them, keeping them around, making them happy, and that's what loyalty is really about. It's not just about rewards, it's about having that relationship between the brand and the customer, knowing exactly who the customer is and being able to keep them around and keep them happy and make them your best brand advocates as well.
So while we're filming this, there's a lot of countries around Europe that might be going into lockdowns again. So I'm thinking that a lot of the trends that we saw as a result of the pandemic this year and last year will continue on into 2022. What do you think these industries could do, especially F&B industries who seem to be quite unfairly hit by lockdowns? What could they do to help themselves recover as we go into the spring?
It's a great question. And of course, if that happens, it's going to be really hard again. But the good news is that most of these businesses have gone through similar challenges, or if not the same challenges before. So they can learn from their mistakes and learn from others' successes as well, or their own, and really, hone in on what they've got going on for them. So one of the things that we always say and try to remind people is that retention is so much cheaper than acquisition. So using the data that you are necessarily now collecting because of the data transformation and all of the D2C channels and everything we've spoken about, it'll be all about utilizing all of this data, understanding the customer, and doing everything you can to keep them around. So in particular, when things are hard, this is what can make or break you. Can you at least keep the customers that already like you, rather than trying to focus on always acquiring new customers? So this obviously includes loyalty programs, using your understanding of the customers to reward them for certain actions and reward them for talking about you, and also coming back after the pandemic will be really, really helpful.